Organizational Behavior, Chapter 11, Teams, Characteristics, and Diversity. Class agenda, teams, characteristics, and diversity. What characteristics can be used to describe teams? Team types, variations within team types, team interdependence, team composition. How important are team characteristics? Application, team compensation. So here we have the integrative model of organizational behavior that we have it with each chapter. Team characteristics and diversity. A team consists of two or more people who work independently over the same time period to accomplish common goals related to some task-oriented purpose. A team is a special type of group. The interactions among members within teams revolve around a deep dependence on one another than the interactions within the groups. The interactions within teams occur with a specific task-related purpose in mind. Why teams have become widespread, interactions allow the teams to pool complementary knowledge and skills. So one of the things that you find when it comes to teams, even when you take some of our classes at the university or whatever else, this is what you see in the real world. And this is why you see you see more team-oriented stuff. Ray Kroc, the founder of McDonald's, who made McDonald's a household name, once stated, "I would rather have 10% of 100 people's effort than 100% of my own," meaning I can get more working with other people than I can by myself. And this is the concept of team. Yes, we see it in sports and we use the word a lot, but realistically, it works. It makes good business sense to work in teams. So you see this a lot out here, especially in corporate America. You see a lot of situations, and I'll give some more examples this later on in this chapter. What characteristics can be used to describe teams? Task, unit, and member qualities can be used to describe teams. These qualities combine to make some teams more effective than others. Team characteristics provide a means of categorizing and examining teams, which is important because teams come in so many different sizes and shapes. So when you look at, there's no one definition of team. You see it in all different types. Bottom line, it's relative. What is team to a particular situation or particular group of people or a particular company? And what their definition is they come up with something of definition of a team that works for them. So you may find one company has team and something totally different than another company. But bottom line, they're both team. They're just different. And they're relative to what it is, who they are and what they do. 5 categories of teams are distinguished by purpose, length of existence, time of involvement required of individual members. Work teams, management teams, parallel teams, project teams, action teams. Multiple team membership. Research indicates that when employees are part of several teams, they do not identify with each team equally. No, they do not. And that's going to depend a lot of times upon, I'll give you an example. I may identify more with one team than the other because the one team actually does something that I enjoy doing. Or that one team is actually utilizing something that I help implement. So there could be any number of reasons why I may identify more with one team than another. But I may be on multiple teams. It doesn't mean that I'm not committed to the other teams. I may have more of a connection or identify more with a particular team for various reasons. But when I look at these teams right here, when I think about just my careers in the past, I can think I've been part of each one of those groups before. And we'll talk more about these groups later in the chapter. But all of these play an important role in various parts depending upon the situation. Types of teams. So you see work team, produce goods or provide services, lifespan long, member involvement high. Specific example, self-managed work team, production team, maintenance team, sales team. So what you find a lot of times when you see a work team, this is a lot of times, this might be your assignment. This is who you're assigned to. And as a result of being assigned to it, this is what you will do in that team. So this is why the membership is long. Management team, integrated activities of subunits across business units. Long, moderate, top management team. So when you see a management team, bottom line is management teams have a tendency to the team will stay long term. It's a lifespan, it's long. But what you may find, the member involvement may change because people in management a lot of times promote up or out. So they don't stay a lot of times. Parallel team. Provide recommendations and resolve issues. Varies. Lifespan varies. Membership low. Quality circle, advisory council, committee. So when you think of this is a lot of times where you may have something to set up specifically. Let's say that you have a team that's struggling with a particular problem and they're trying to figure out exactly what it is they don't know. Well, they may assign another team, a parallel team, to come in to try to resolve those issues. And see, the lifespan on this can vary. A lot of times from what I've seen, they're usually low to medium. They come in long enough to solve the problem and then they go. You see like advisory council, committees, or whatever else. These are the type of people you bring in, almost like troubleshoot something. So they're working with this team, parallel of the team, but they're there for a specific purpose, and usually it's not long term. Project team, produce one-time output, product, service, plan, design. Lifespan can vary, membership can vary. So when you think of product team, examples, product design team, research group, planning team. So when you look at them, they come in and they have a project they're working on. So give you an example. When you have project teams, a lot of times their job is to come in and to do a project. It may be a 60-day project. It may be a 90-day project. It could be a 30-day project. But once it's over, they go to the next project. So it's not like they come and stay for a long time. So lifespan varies, but a lot of times it's defined usually. It's not, sometimes it may not be defined by days. It may be defined by how long it takes to get the project done. Action team performs complex tasks that vary in duration and take place in high visibility or challenging circumstances. Varies, lifespan, membership varies. Surgical team, musical group, expedition team, sports team. So when we think in terms of an action team, they come in to do, again, perform a complex task that varies in duration and takes place in high visibility, challenging circumstances. So when you see these types of teams, again, my experience is a lot of times they're usually short to medium lifespan. And the membership does vary with these because a lot of times with these action teams, they rotate people through. People do not stay but a certain amount of time and then they move on, but others come and join the team. So the teams continue, but a lot of times they will continue with different sets of people and with a different purpose. 11.1 types of teams. So when we look at this, we talk about the work teams, the management teams, the parallel teams, the project teams, the action teams. And you can see it goes over team types. So this is just different types of teams. Now, this is not an all-inclusive. There could be some other types as well, but for purposes of our exercise and our training and learning, we're going to talk about these because these are the primary ones. Variations within team types. So this is something that's very important to understand. Variations that can impact the team's effectiveness, the degree of autonomy or self-management the team has. So when you talk about that, how much decision-making do they have? Can they manage themselves? Do they need permission to do anything? Can they come up with ideas on their own and implement? That's very important because you can have a team that can have great ideas and want to do stuff, but you could have somebody else who's making all the decisions for them. Therefore, they don't have much autonomy. So they can't be, a lot of times what I've found to be the case is if you have that, you have teams that's not as effective as they can be because they actually can't implement anything because they have to get approval to do it. Self-management the team has. So if they have self-management, that means not only do we come up with the idea, we can actually implement it and we can govern ourselves accordingly. Modes of communication such as virtual teams in which members are geographically dispersed and communicate electronically. This is what primarily happens today in a lot of situations. In many situations in corporate America, people are not co-located anymore. They're in multiple time zones in multiple continents in multiple countries. So the modes of communication is very important. You may have people on the team and you may have 8 different time zones. Now you have to figure out when is the best time, the sweet spot to get everybody on a call because it's vitally important. You have to get everybody on the call. It doesn't matter if you have different time zones. That's what's happened today, and that's how things work today. How much experience the team has working together? Do you have an experienced team working together, or you have an inexperienced team? An inexperienced team is not going to be as effective and efficient as one that has actually experience working together. They haven't learned to fall into different types of roles yet, and they're still trying to figure things out. Doesn't mean they won't be effective. It just means they need time to gel. So stages of team development. Teams go through a progression as the members gain experience working together. This is the stages right here that I was never really I never really understood exactly what those stages were, but I've been through them and I understand those, and I've seen this happen in the real world, and you will too. But now you'll actually understand what it is as you go through those. Forming. This is initially when members orient themselves to team boundaries. When you get together, you got to figure out, okay, what is my role? What is her role? What is his role? What are the boundaries? So that we respect each other. Storming. Conflict occurs because members remain committed to ideas they bring with them to the team. Okay, we're still human. So when we do come to a team, a lot of times we bring baggage with us. How we used to do things and how we used to think. Well, guess what? You actually may be assigned to work on something that's not familiar to you. So what I'm saying is this: you can't solve new problems with old solutions. So you have to actually dismiss some of the things, let go some of the old baggage, and clear your mind so that you can actually say, you know what, let's avoid conflict. So if you have a 5-member team and 4 of them are willing to say, I'm gonna clear my mind, I'm open-minded, and I'm ready to move forward, but a 5th person is saying, well, this is the way I've always done it, and this is how I'm gonna do it, that's a conflict. Norming. Members realize that they need to work together to begin to cooperate. So this is the norming when people come together and say, you know what? There's no I in team. We got to come together. We have a goal to accomplish. And in reality, this is what happens. Bottom line is this: if we don't succeed, if one of us don't succeed, we all fail. So now this is when people realize that they got to work together, because there's no such thing as 4 people succeeding and 1 failing. Performing. Members are comfortable in their roles. The team makes progress towards their goals. So now people are in their roles and they're good with that. They understand, they're getting their footing. They understand it. And I'm good with my role. And I can tell you, doing this performing, you may find that you may have to switch roles with individuals to get them where they need to be so you can move forward. A journey. Members experience anxiety and other emotions as they disengage and separate from the team. Once you become a part of a team and you gel and you work and you perform and you achieve, a journey actually comes with a little bit of anxiety. As people, one of the things I can tell you is we like belonging. So when we adjourn and we leave the team, we're no longer a member anymore. And so it comes with a little anxiety. So, 2 models of team development. So some teams develop in a predictable sequence. You see forming, storming, norming, performing, adjourning. And that's textbook perfect, how ideally you want to see it work. In reality, that's usually not the case. This actually, that's very linear. So you sequence, whereas many develop in a less linear fashion. You see at the bottom at the green, you see performing and pattern creation, inertia. You see punctuated equilibrium, progress revision, inertia. This is most likely what most people will go through. It's not exactly this pattern, but something closer to this on the bottom than at the top. Because what I can tell you is, reality is, nobody can ever predict go in a situation and there's never any problems, never any hiccups, and never any setbacks. And if that's the case, then you would have exactly on the top right there. You see, everything works perfectly. In reality, life happens, work happens, Circumstances happen, things we can't plan for, things beyond our control. So we would usually most likely take a less linear path when it comes to the type of team development, which is reflected at the bottom. Variations of team development. This team development sequence may be less applicable in some team situations. Clearly established rules and standard operating procedures can eliminate the need for some stages. For example, an airline flight crew in which roles are clearly defined and a chain of authority understood. Teams with longer lifespans experience greater anxiety and strong emotions during adjournment. Punctuated equilibrium refers to the development in which not much gets done until the midway point of a project, and then the team increases efficiency, effectiveness to meet deadline. So when we look at the teams with longer lifespans, the longer they stay together, the longer they work together, and the longer they actually develop chemistry and bonds and understanding their roles, usually the greater it is the anxiety when they separate. Bottom line says, I'll make it simple. They get used to something. Now you actually have to let it go and go do something else, start all over again. Punctuated equilibrium refers to the development in which not much gets done. So realistically, punctuated equilibrium refers to, at first, the team has to get their footing, develop their roles, fill out what they're going to do, get used to stuff. And that usually is not where they're most productive. By the time they get to the midway point, they figured it out. Now their effectiveness increases, and then they get much better and more efficient at what they do as a result of actually figuring things out along the way. Remember, most people learn by doing. So during the punctuated equilibrium, they're learning as they do during that first part. By that midway point, they figured it out. Team interdependence. Teams are characterized by three main types of interdependence that govern the team's members' interactions: task independence, goal independence, outcome independence. And we're going to talk about each of those in further detail. So you see right here, we have a chart right here for interdependence. And if you understand what the definition of interdependence will mean, it means that you're not dependent upon just yourself. You're interdependent upon others or other groups or other teams to get things done. And here's a little survey right here that you can take on your own. Task independence refers to the degree to which team members interact with and rely on other team members for information, materials, resources needed to accomplish work for the team. Pull independence. Members work independently and then pool the results. Sequence independence. Members work on specialized tasks in a prescribed order. Reciprocal independence. Members perform specialized tasks and then interact with other members to complete. Comprehensive independence. Members interact to a high degree to coordinate and perform tasks. So you see interdependence. All these are different aspects in ways where you actually are required to work with someone before, during, or after. But you have this all under task independence. And this is very common in the workplace where you do something. Think of this in terms of a puzzle. You are doing something, but you're working on a piece of the puzzle. There's a much larger piece. That's interdependence. So when you do your piece, you bring it together with the rest of the pieces, and then you all put it together, and then you have a complete puzzle. Interdependence. Task independence and coordination requirements. So you see here, I won't spend a lot of time on this, but as you can see, this is showing you comprehensive independence. You're at the top, you look at how the individuals are connected to each other, what they do to get output. You look at reciprocal independence. You see how they're connected to get output. Sequential independence. You see how they're connected. So in other words, just give you an example. When you look at sequential, Number one has to do his part. Number two, number three, number four to get output. Things have to happen in that way. And see, pull interdependence. You see, everybody does something and then brings it together. So you get output, but you're getting it different ways. But it's all interdependent upon other individuals or other teams. Goal independence is this: when team members have a shared vision of the team's goals and align their individual goals with that vision as a result. Analogy: a boat with everyone paddling in the same direction exemplifies goal independence. Mission statement helps clarify actions needed by the team. So the thing at the end of the day is, the goal is everybody's working towards that common goal. This is what we have to get to. No matter what it is you're doing, you're still endeavoring towards that goal. If it's 10 of us, we're all endeavoring towards that goal because we're goal interdependent. The mission statement development process. Steps in the mission statement development. A team should meet together in a room or virtually. Allow enough time and avoid interruptions. Vitally important. You have to have some formal way of meeting and getting together. And it has to be void of interruptions. And I'll give you an example. If you've got 10 people in there and you got 10 people in there who are actually, everybody's looking at their phone and answering calls and answering emails and texts while you're in that meeting, it won't work. That's interruptions. You cannot do that. Whatever it is you do has to take precedent right there in that room and virtually. And you cannot have those type of interruptions. The team leader or facilitator should describe the purpose of a mission statement and what it should look like. Emphasize the mission statements should include action verbs and be relatively short, probably no more than 4 sentences. Okay, what it is we're trying to accomplish. What's our mission statement? And it should not be 10 pages long. It needs to be short and bullet points. Something that's short and sweet and people can understand and people can follow and track, but it gets people laser focused. The team leader or facilitator should clarify the team's core responsibilities. Who does what? You have to let people know who does what. One of the things you'll find is if you're talking about wasting time or lost time, is you have 2 people duplicating efforts or someone doing something they should not be doing. It should be actually assigned to someone else. And I'll give you an example. Why in the world would you have someone in accounting handling marketing, a marketing function? I'm kind of being funny here, but that's an example. So you have to make sure that if you have someone in accounting, he's handling things associated with accounting, and the person associated with marketing is handling marketing. The team should brainstorm to identify themes to include in the mission statement. So one of the things you find as a team leader and facilitator is let the group brainstorm and let them help you come up with the mission statement. Why is that important? If they're giving input on it, then that means they're involved in the process. People are much more likely to accept something if they're involved in the process versus you dictating to them. Members should draft preliminary mission statements. If the team is large enough, form subgroups to create first drafts. Break it down. If you have a large enough group, break it down into subgroups and say, assign them certain portions or whatever else. In other words, work smart. If you have enough people to do more than 3 things, if they can do 6 or 7 things, then let them do it and bring it all together at the end. Members or subgroups should share their first drafts with one another. This is where actually having subgroups and members, you can share things with each other. Hey, what do you think about this? What's your input on this? And allow them to give you some advice on it, whatever. Because the bottom line is 1 person can write it, but 3 other people can review it and give input. You probably have a much better outcome because now you have 4 people involved in that. The team should identify the best ideas and integrate them into a single mission statement. So as a result of coming up with 15 things, you can whittle it down to 10. And from 10, you can whittle it down to 5 and say, these are the 5 things, mission statement that we want to go with. We started with 15, we whittled it down to 10. We got it down to the 5 core things that's important to us. This is our mission statement. evaluate using the following criteria. Focus. Does the mission statement articulate a purpose that is sufficiently clear and focused? If it doesn't, revamp it. Meaningfulness. Does the mission statement reflect a purpose that is meaningful to the members? And will it accomplishing the purpose result in benefits that are important to the members? Is it realistic? Does the mission statement reflect something that the members believe they can actually achieve? Challenge. Does the mission statement convey a sense of challenge and urgency to members? The team should identify weak areas of the mission statement relevant to 4 criteria in step 8 and revise accordingly. Return to step 7 and continue the process until the consensus that the mission statement inspires commitment among members to the same common purpose. So you see, there is a process. And this is the process that takes you all the way through, where you see, we don't just sit down and come up with something, say, okay, this is it. No, you're talking about probably 3-4 drafts later, maybe 5 or 6. But eventually, ultimately, to get to where you say, this is something that we all can believe in, it makes sense, and we can support, this is the process you must go through. Avengers Endgame. I don't know if any of you actually saw this Marvel movie from the Marvel Universe, but this is where you have the Avengers, we had superheroes where they come together to try to stop Thanos, who is trying to get the Infinity Stones so that he can actually control the world, make a lot of people disappear, to include some of the Avengers themselves. But what's important about this is, in here you see the Avengers come together on a common goal. They define their roles. They use their unique abilities working together, because one of them by themselves is not someone that can challenge Thanos, but collectively together they can. So what you see here is teamwork. You see people coming together. They have a defined mission. They have defined roles, and they come together and they agree and they fall into these roles to try to work together for a common goal. And in the course of doing so, well, I won't spoil the movie for you if you haven't seen it, but if you haven't, go see it stuff. But you see teamwork at play right here in this movie. So outcome independence, the degree to which team members share equally in the feedback and rewards that result from the team achieving its goals. The high degree exists when team members share in the rewards that the team earns, including pay, bonuses, and other forms of recognition. Higher levels of outcome independence increase the amount of information shared among the members to promote learning and increase the team performance. So when you look at independence outcome, you see this a lot of times where you have groups, and I use this like a sales team, where everybody has individual sales quotas that they're supposed to meet. But by the same token, if they meet their individual, did they meet their group and team quotas? And if they did, now they earn group pay bonuses and recognition as a result. So it's individual tied into team or group, and they get rewarded as individuals, but they also get rewarded as a team. Now you've got people working together for a common goal, for the outcome. Their goal is to achieve their group and team bonuses, quotas, so they can get their bonuses. Team composition, the mix of people who make up a team. The right mixture of knowledge, skills, abilities, and personalities is an important factor in team effectiveness. 5 aspects of team composition are member roles, member ability, member personality, team diversity, team size. And I'm going to go into each one of those here in just a second. So the 5 aspects of the team. So you see, when you bring the roles, ability, the personality, diversity, and size together, collectively, they equal team composition. That's how you get team composition. So member roles. Member roles is the pattern of behavior a person is expected to display in a given context. A variety of roles in team contexts are based on tasks, decision-making, leadership activities. Leader staff teams consist of members who make recommendations to the leader who is ultimately responsible for team decisions. So what roles does someone play? And do I assume the leader role? Do I assume the facilitator role? What role do people play? And realistically, you want to make sure you understand that, because you need people to play different roles so that there are not needs, so that needs are getting met. So this is something you have to understand. And I give you an example. And this is, for instance, if you're looking at a situation, you have a team and you have roles to follow. You don't need 5 members. You can't have 3 leaders on that team. No, you need to have one leader, and then you need to have other members who do other things. Take the other leader and put him on the other team. Team and individualistic roles. So I won't read through all of these. I'll let you read through those on your own. You can pause and read through those to get an idea of what we're talking about here when it comes to different task roles, team building roles, what people play, how they come into play, and what examples are. Here again is a continuation of that. Member ability. Cognitive and physical abilities needed in a team depend on the nature of the team's task. For example, a racing pit crew needs individuals with flexibility, cardiovascular endurance, strength, and speed. In general, teams composed of people with high cognitive abilities perform better because teamwork tends to be complex. Disjunctive tasks depend on the member with the highest ability. Conjunctive tasks depend on the member with the lowest ability. Addictive tasks depend on the combined efforts of all. So when you see ability, when teams come in, what is the ability? Member ability. What is it that you bring to the table? I'm gonna be honest with you. Like, what does the team need, and what do you bring to the table? You can have situations where you have a team and you have members come together and you bring some folks and they may not have the ability that the team needs. And you may have to swap them out for someone else or seek someone else who's better aligned with what you need. Member personality. 3 traits are especially critical in this. Agreeable people tend to be more cooperative and trusting. Tendencies that promote positive attitudes about the team and smooth interpersonal reactions. Conscientious people tend to be dependable and work hard to achieve goals. Extroverted people tend to perform more effectively in interpersonal contexts and are more positive and optimistic in general. So when we look at, you see the personality, what type of people you bring together, what type of team are you trying to assemble, and what is the purpose of that team? And understanding, are you bringing together, for instance, are you bringing someone to your team who's not an agreeable person? They don't play fair in the sandbox. That is a problem, because that goes against right there. The first thing you see, agreeable people tend to be more cooperative. When someone's not agreeable, they tend not to be. And they tend not to focus on positive things, but they can be focused on negative things or personal things, but it's not usually good for a team. Those people don't do well in team environments. Team diversity. Now, this word diversity, today it's getting a bad rap because of political connotations. In the real world, when you take politics out of it and you look at what it truly means, it makes sense. So we're going to talk about this. The degree to which members are different from one another. Value in diversity problem-solving approach proposes that team diversity is beneficial because it provides a larger pool of knowledge and perspectives. So the first thing I'm going to tell you is it's bigger than just race. It's bigger than it's all different types of things. I'm going to go into a little bit more here. Similarity, attraction, approach proposes that the team diversity can be counterproductive. Similarity, attraction, approach proposes that team diversity can be counterproductive because people tend to avoid interacting with others who are unlike them. So when you have folks who don't, and there are teams and people out there that don't believe in that, Well, what they believe is if I hire a bunch of people or I work with a bunch of people like me, that's the best thing for us. Well, guess what? When you bring in people who are just like you, who think like you, who have your education, your experience, you all have a lot of times have a tendency to have the strengths, the same strengths. But guess what? You also tend to have similar weaknesses. When you have people who are unlike you who comes in, they see things differently and they may see something that you didn't see. When you look at something and see the glass is half empty, they may see it half full and then they can tell you why. And you might be like, hey, I didn't think about it that way. Surface level diversity refers to diversity of observable attributes such as race, gender, ethnicity, and age. That's just the surface. And this is oftentimes what people get caught up in. When the politics get caught up, that's what it gets caught up in, that right there. Surface level diversity. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. Because realistically, I can give you an example when we talk about diversity. We're talking about diversity of thought, diversity of training, diversity of education, diversity of culture, diversity of language, diversity of skills, diversity of aptitude, diversity of age. All these things factor into it. That comes into play. And when you bring in people with when you truly look at diversity and what it truly is, and not what it politically is, but what it really is, this is why some teams are more effective than others. Deep level diversity refers to diversity of attributes that are difficult to observe initially, but can be inferred through direct experience, such as one's values or personality. I actually know a situation where an individual interviewed for a job. She interviewed for a job. She had switched careers and she had gone back and got a master's degree. And because she wanted to switch careers. But that now meant that she was someone who was applying to new jobs as an inexperienced person in her new career field with her new degree. She's interviewed for a job. She felt like she was not going to be the most qualified for it. But she would be qualified, but probably not the most experienced. This person interviewed for the job and she got the job. And she was baffled. She was shocked that she got the job. It paid her the most money she had ever had and gave her the best job she'd ever had. And she was shocked. After she got the job, she did speak with one of the managers to find out, how was I able to get the job over my competition? And this is what she was told. You got the job because you were the best. Everybody was qualified. You may not have been the most qualified, but you were the best fit because you had the personality that this group needed. This is real world stuff. This is how things happen out there when people are making the decisions when they're trying to build teams. This particular woman got hired because she was agreeable and she was conscientious and she was able to get along with people. She was going to a group where they had a lot of type A personalities and they had a lot of infighting. They did not want another leader, chief on that team. They wanted someone who could actually grease the skids and bring people together. And this particular lady had a great personality along with her education and experience. And that's why she got the job. Diversity, personality, diversity. Team diversity. Stereotypes and other conscientious biases affect team diversity. Many challenges of diversity are rooted in hidden biases, particularly towards underrepresented groups. So do you understand what unconscious bias is? This is something where people are not aware that they have a bias. And they don't understand that they have even though they don't think that they do. And I'll give you an example. Sometimes it's difficult for some people to deal with folks who are unlike them if they don't have much experience dealing with someone. They only know what they've heard or what they read about or what they've seen on TV. Biases may be unintentional, but can still create misunderstandings and marginalization. Inclusion refers to the extent to which people feel that they are truly part of a group of organization, that they are welcome and valued. Inclusion is important in many outcomes, including work, relationships, job satisfaction, well-being, commitment, and job performance. And I'll give you an example. If you take a female who goes into work in a group and the boss is male and all the guys are, and it's all males. Well, she's got to, it's going to be up to the boss and the men to make her feel included. She's qualified. She can do the job. But bottom line is she truly a team member? Is she just on the team, or is she truly a team member? And if they truly value her as a member, then they'll welcome her as an equal based on her experience, not her gender. Has nothing to do with whether or not she can do it. And whether or not she feels welcome is going to depend a lot upon what her peers and her manager does. Team size. Having a greater number of members is beneficial for management and project team, but not for teams engaged in production tasks. Team members tend to be most satisfied with their team when the number of members is 4 or 5. So having a greater number of members is beneficial for management and for project teams, but not teams engaged in production. So when you're looking at team size, this is all relevant. If you got a big number, for instance, if you're trying to bring a management team together and you got a bunch of people to bring together to do thought and give idea and come up with policy stuff, that's great. When it comes to execution and getting things done, you can't have big teams. Those you can, but they're not the most efficient. You see, most are more efficient when they're 4 to 5 people. Here's why. You can have defined roles. You get to know who you are. You get to know who you are as a group. You get to know how you as individuals. You know what everybody expects. You get boundaries. You have accountability. A lot of things, but you can't be too big. And this is, I call it the sweet spot. And that 4 to 5 is what they're saying is when you look at something like production tasks, that's your sweet spot. What characteristics can be used to describe teams? So when we go back here and look at this, the things that we've all talked about, you bring them all together. You see the blue categories, you see the red, and you bring those all together, that equals the green is the team characteristics. How important are team characteristics? Team characteristics can impact team performance and team commitment. Team characteristics, team viability refers to the likelihood that the team can work together effectively and in the future. So go back. Team characteristics can impact the team performance and team commitment. So if you don't have the right characteristics and your team is not set up properly, it's going to negatively affect the team in multiple ways. But one of the ways it's going to show up is going to be in performance. That's one of the first places it's going to show up. And then it also shows up in commitment. Team viability refers to the likelihood that the team can work together effectively in the future. So did you build a team that for the short term or for the long term? If you got viability, this is something that you can say, you know what? This team is being built for the long haul and it can sustain and it can thrive into the future. Even if some of the players, members of the team change, that it can still continue to go on. Task performance is moderately higher in teams in which members work closely together than with members independently. So when you have tasks, for instance, if you have individuals who are working on a task and they're interdependent on each other, so it's 2 people it takes to get something done. Well, realistically, when they're closely tied to each other and they're working together, you have a much better chance of getting success than when they're independent. And I'll give you an example. You have 2 people in a department and they're both working on a project, a task. And they sit three feet apart and they get things done. You have another group where you have task performance where one person's on one side of the building, the other person's on the other side. So they're not even on the same floor. They're in the same building on different floors, but they're supposed to be working together. They're really working independently. So they don't speak a lot. They don't see each other a lot. So not saying it can't be successful, but there's a high chance that it won't be as successful as the 2 who are codependent and working together closely. Task interdependence does not significantly increase team commitment. So when you look at task independence, it does not increase team commitment. So bottom line is this, I can be working with someone and we can be doing a task, whatever, but it doesn't necessarily increase my commitment to the team. And here we refer to that task independence. You see, it has a moderate relation to team performance, but you see it has a weak relationship to team commitment. So here's a little chart you could take. Strongly agree, disagree 1, strongly agree 5. You can pause and take this on your own. Average score is 22. So team compensation. Outcomes independence is connected to compensation practices in many organizations. Leads to inequity among teammates. Demotivates high performance who I see low performers achieving the same compensation. So in other words, when you see this, when you see individuals, let's say it's two individuals. They're on a team. One is doing really well and gets compensated for it. The other one is not, but they get compensated for it as well because they're on the team. This is actually where you see where low performers receive the same compensation. This is not a motivational thing for high performing people. Some point you're going to say, well, why is it I'm busting my rear end to do good and this guy's not, but he's getting the same rewards that I get? Hybrid outcome independence means that team members receive rewards based on both their individual performance and that of the team which they belong. Many companies that use teams use hybrid outcome independence. This is what you see most common out there. And like the example I gave earlier, when you have a sales team, they make individual sales goals, but then they make group sales goals. So they get rewarded as an individual for making their goals, and then they get rewarded as a team for making their team goals. That concludes chapter 11.